The Arbiter's Quest, my trusty vessel, floated in the star-strewn void as I leaned into the console to decode the transmission from Earth. It was succinct but clear. A mandate to assess the viability of a newly discovered planet for human colonization. The data packet highlighted an intriguing world, designated OC-112, with a massive ocean covering most of its surface and two sprawling landmasses teeming with life. The message concluded with a personal note from the United Earth Exploration Command. Captain Elara Voss, your expertise in planetary exploration makes you uniquely qualified for this mission. Humanity's future depends on finding new homes. Proceed with caution and wonder. I set the ship's course toward OC-112, anticipation building with every light year we traversed. Beside me, Dax-47 hummed to life, his photoreceptor flashing blue. Captain, initial scans indicate stable weather patterns and a temperate climate on the larger island. Should I commence habitat viability simulations? Not yet, Dax. Let's land first and see it with our own eyes. This isn't just about numbers, it's about possibilities. The descent through the planet's atmosphere was smooth, and the view was nothing short of awe-inspiring. The vast, shimmering ocean stretched endlessly, punctuated by the two landmasses, their surfaces lush and green. As we approached the larger island, the ship's sensors painted a vivid picture of sprawling plains, dense forests, and herds of creatures that bore a striking resemblance to Earth's horses. Dax, I said, smiling at the sight. If these creatures are as graceful as they appear from here, humanity will have some interesting companions on this world. Dax responded with his usual practicality. Captain, I recommend caution. Local fauna, regardless of their resemblance to Earth species, may present unforeseen challenges. I'll prepare a preliminary ecological survey. The ship landed gently on a broad expanse near the island's southern coastline. I stepped onto the soft, mossy ground, the air warm and fragrant with the scent of alien flora. The sound of waves lapping against the shore mingled with the distant calls of the horse-like creatures grazing nearby. This place, I murmured, taking in the serene beauty, could be humanity's second chance. Dax extended a scanning module, already at work gathering data on the soil composition, atmospheric density, and water purity. As I ventured further inland, I considered the delicate balance this mission required. Transforming a pristine world into a human colony, while preserving its unique ecosystem. The first steps were clear: mapping resources, cataloging species, and establishing a foothold. But as I watched the creatures in the distance, a herd with iridescent coats and flowing manes, their movements almost poetic, I realized this planet held not just potential but stories of its own, waiting to be uncovered. The journey had only begun. The Arbiter's Quest rested on the mossy expanse of the larger island, its hull gleaming under the twin suns of OC-112. Dax-47, ever efficient, began deploying his array of environmental probes as I shed the heavier layers of my exploration suit. This was always the critical phase, testing whether the planet's atmosphere was as welcoming as the initial scans suggested. Preliminary results, Captain, Dax reported. The air composition is 21% oxygen, 78% nitrogen, and trace gases. No harmful particulates or contaminants detected. Temperature, 24 degrees Celsius. Atmospheric pressure within Earth norms. Recommend testing exposure. I stepped out of the ship, helmet in hand, and inhaled cautiously. The air was crisp, almost sweet, with faint undertones of salt and earth. It filled my lungs with an invigorating clarity, as though the planet itself welcomed me. It's perfect, I said, the words laced with awe. I unlatched the helmet and placed it inside the ship, the sunlight warm against my skin for the first time in weeks. The next priority was ensuring the safety of prolonged exposure. Over the next day, Dax monitored my vitals, confirming that OC-112's environment was indeed compatible with human physiology. Encouraged by the results, I ventured farther from the landing site, each step revealing more of the island's splendor. The first animals we encountered were the horse-like creatures I had seen from orbit. Up close, they were even more magnificent. Standing taller than Earth's horses, their iridescent coats shimmered with a spectrum of colors depending on how the sunlight hit them. Their manes flowed like liquid silk, and their movements were a blend of power and grace. Dax recorded every detail. Species resembles Equus ferus cabalis with significant divergence. Morphology suggests adaptation to rapid movement across open terrain. Initial analysis. Herbivorous. No immediate threat detected. One of the creatures, its coat gleaming like polished silver, trotted closer, its large, intelligent eyes fixed on me. I moved slowly, extending a hand. To my surprise, it stepped forward, nuzzling my palm with a soft, warm nose. "I think it likes me," I said, grinning at Dax. "Or it finds you non-threatening, Captain," Dax replied, though there was a trace of amusement in his tone. The day unfolded in a series of breathtaking discoveries. Beyond the plains, the forests were alive with creatures that defied description. Winged mammals darting between trees, luminescent insects forming intricate patterns in the twilight, and towering reptilian predators whose calls echoed like distant thunder. "Captain," Dax noted during one survey, "the biodiversity here is remarkable. However, I recommend prioritizing scans of the ocean. With over 80% of this planet's surface covered in water, understanding its marine ecosystems will be critical." The next morning, we turned our focus to the vast ocean. A small scouting craft detached from the Arbiter's quest, gliding smoothly over the azure waves. The water was crystalline, so clear I could see schools of alien fish weaving through forests of coral-like structures beneath the surface. "Deploying deep-sea scanner," Dax announced, launching a sleek drone into the water. The display inside the craft filled with a live feed as the drone descended. At first, the ocean seemed serene, its depths teeming with colorful marine life. But as the drone plunged deeper, the scenery shifted. Massive leviathans glided through the darker waters, their bioluminescent patterns rippling like starlight. Some moved with languid grace, their sheer size making them appear almost dreamlike, while others darted with predatory precision. "Captain," Dax said, his voice tinged with surprise, "some of these species exhibit traits indicative of advanced neural development, potentially sentient or semi-sentient." The possibility sent a thrill through me. A sentient marine species could mean an entirely new dimension of understanding and challenge. The mission was growing more complex with each passing hour, but the promise of OC-112 was undeniable. A world of such beauty and diversity was not just a new home. It was a treasure of the cosmos. The drone feed displayed a swirling ballet of bioluminescent leviathans gliding effortlessly through the dark depths of OC-112's ocean. Their forms, elongated and elegant, glowed with patterns that seemed too deliberate to be random. I couldn't shake the sense that these creatures were more than instinct-driven animals. "Dax," I said, leaning closer to the screen, "do you see that? Those light patterns, they're rhythmic, almost like language." Dax emitted a thoughtful hum. "Analyzing now. The frequency and repetition suggest a form of communication. Deploying linguistic protocols to decode." Minutes stretched into hours as Dax worked to interpret the Leviathan's signals. The ship's algorithms, honed from encounters with countless alien languages, began to discern a rudimentary pattern. When Dax finally spoke, his tone carried a weight of significance. "Captain, we may have a starting point. The patterns align with an exchange of identifiers, possibly names or designations. I recommend initiating contact through visual and sonic signals." I took a deep breath. "Let's do it." Prepare the medium-range probe and set it to replicate their bioluminescent patterns. The probe plunged into the ocean, its cameras capturing the leviathans as they circled curiously. I activated the signal transmitter, carefully replicating the rhythmic light patterns we had decoded. A pause followed, and then the nearest leviathan responded, its glowing body pulsing with a new sequence. "Captain," Dax said. "The response matches the protocol for mutual acknowledgement. They're receptive to further communication." We spent the next day refining our exchange. Gradually, meaning began to emerge, a rudimentary understanding of concepts like identity, existence, and environment. The leviathans communicated through a blend of light patterns, deep, resonant sounds, and deliberate movements. It was mesmerizing and profoundly humbling to realize we were bridging the gap between two entirely different forms of intelligence. Eventually, the messages shifted to something more profound. The leviathans began to convey their perception of the ocean, a living entity that sustained them, connected to the planet itself. Harmony was not just a way of life for them. It was a guiding principle, a belief in the interdependence of all things. "They view the ocean as both a home and a sacred being," I said, marveling at the depth of their perspective. Dax, we need to approach this with the utmost care. As our dialogue deepened, I broached the subject that had lingered in my mind. Dax, prepare the question. The probe transmitted a carefully crafted message, combining light, sound, and motion to convey the concept. Could we, some from our world, live near you, in harmony with this ocean? The Leviathans responded after a long pause, their glowing bodies swirling in an intricate dance. Dax processed the signal, his photoreceptor pulsing in time with his analysis. Captain, he said, their response is conditional. They express curiosity about our intentions, and a desire for assurance that our presence would not disrupt the harmony they cherish. I nodded, feeling both relieved and challenged. We'll need to show them our sincerity, Dax. They're guardians of this world in a way we can only aspire to understand. If we want to coexist, we'll have to prove that we can adapt to their way of life, not the other way around. The dialogue continued, the Leviathans demonstrating remarkable patience, as we conveyed Earth's intentions. I promised to establish a limited settlement with strict adherence to the balance they cherished. In turn, they expressed a cautious willingness to observe this endeavor, their glowing patterns imbued with what I could only interpret as a sense of hope. As I stood on the ship's bridge, gazing out at the shimmering ocean below, I felt a deep sense of responsibility. This wasn't just about colonization anymore. It was about earning the trust of a species that embodied the very harmony humanity so often struggled to achieve. The future of this world, and perhaps humanity's place within it, would depend on the next steps we took. And for the first time, I felt the weight of not just representing my people, but proving that we were worthy of this extraordinary planet's trust. The Arbiter's quest hovered over the shimmering waves of OC-112's vast ocean before adjusting its trajectory toward the untouched expanse of the smaller island. From orbit, its surface had appeared rugged and mineral-rich, with jagged cliffs rising like sentinels over sprawling plains. Now, as we descended, the potential for new discoveries sent a thrill through me. Captain, Dax 47 announced, his tone brisk. The landmass ahead exhibits significant geological diversity. Scanning has detected unusual mineral compositions near the coastline and high thermal activity beneath the surface. Thermal activity? Volcanoes? I asked. Not precisely, Captain. Initial readings suggest geothermal vents. They could indicate subterranean magma flows or unique geothermal phenomena. We touched down near a ridge overlooking the ocean. The terrain was starkly different from the lush ecosystem of the larger island. Here, the ground was rocky and speckled with crystalline formations that refracted the sunlight into a kaleidoscope of colors. The air was cooler, carrying an earthy tang that hinted at mineral deposits beneath the surface. Dax extended a drone equipped with sampling tools. Commencing resource analysis. Initial surveys suggest these crystals contain a high concentration of silicate structures with trace elements of an unknown metallic compound. I crouched to examine one of the crystals closely. Its surface shimmered with an iridescent hue, shifting colors as I turned it in my hand. Dax, any idea what this could be used for? Unknown at present, Captain. However, the metallic compound's properties may have applications in energy storage or advanced construction materials. Further analysis required. We moved inland, the drone scanning continuously as we trekked over rocky outcrops and across shallow valleys. The ground beneath us occasionally hummed faintly, as though the planet itself was alive. It wasn't long before the scanner flagged another anomaly. Captain, Dax said, his photoreceptor flashing. There's a deposit ahead exhibiting electromagnetic properties. The signal suggests it may be a rare, conductive mineral. We reached the site to find a glistening vein of or embedded in the cliffside, its surface emitting faint, pulsing light. The drone's analysis confirmed it. The substance was a superconductive material with potential applications in energy transmission and advanced circuitry. This is incredible, I said, marveling at the find. If harvested responsibly, this could revolutionize how we build and power technology, on Earth and here. Dax's tone shifted to caution. Captain, we must consider the ecological impact of any extraction. This planet thrives in balance, as evidenced by the oceanic species' insistence on harmony. Overharvesting could destabilize the ecosystem. I agree, I said, my mind already working through the logistics. We'll need to establish a framework for sustainable use, involving the native species in the decision-making process. As the sun dipped lower, painting the landscape in warm hues, we came upon a series of geothermal vents. Steam hissed from fissures in the ground, and the surrounding rocks glowed faintly with heat. The drone sensors detected a high concentration of rare elements typically associated with geothermal activity, including platinum group metals and trace amounts of helium-3, an isotope valuable for fusion energy. Dax, I said, surveying the vents, this planet isn't just habitable, it's a treasure trove. But we'll need to tread carefully. These resources could transform life on Earth, but only if we ensure this world's ecosystems remain intact. Agreed, Captain, Dax replied. I recommend implementing a no-extraction buffer zone until we can fully assess the interconnected impact on local life forms. As we returned to the ship, my thoughts turned to the bigger picture. OC-112 was proving to be more than a sanctuary for humanity. It was a partner in survival, a planet with resources that could ensure our future while challenging us to grow wiser in how we use them. The balance would be delicate, but the potential was immense. And with each step, I felt the weight of responsibility grow heavier. Humanity had been given another chance, but it was up to us to ensure that chance didn't come at the cost of this world's harmony. Back aboard the Arbiter's quest, I reviewed the data collected from the past few weeks. The scans, samples, and communications painted a vivid picture of OC-112's potential and its fragility. This world held the promise of a new beginning for humanity, but only if we respected the delicate balance already thriving here. Dax, I said, organizing the final sections of our report, patch me through to Earth. The Science and Colonization Council needs to see this. The main view screen flickered to life, displaying a conference room on Earth. The room was stark but alive with anticipation, its occupants a mix of scientists, engineers, and officials. Dr. Lian Zhou, head of the Planetary Sciences Division, sat at the center, her piercing gaze locking onto me as the transmission stabilized. Captain Voss, she greeted, her tone professional but warm. We've been eagerly awaiting your findings. What can you tell us about OC-112? I nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. Dr. Zhou, council members, this planet is a remarkable discovery. Its atmosphere, land masses, and ocean ecosystems are fully compatible with human life. However, OC-112 is far from an empty canvas. Its native species and resources demand careful stewardship if we are to coexist. I launched into the presentation, detailing our findings. The council watched intently as I described the harmony of the oceanic leviathans, the shimmering superconductive minerals, and the geothermal energy potential. We've established initial communication with the ocean's sentient species, I continued, showing visuals of the bioluminescent leviathans. They value harmony above all and have expressed tentative willingness to allow a human presence, provided we respect their environment. A murmur rippled through the council as I concluded my report. Dr. Zhou leaned forward, her brow furrowed in thought. Captain, this is extraordinary. However, it also raises significant challenges. How do we ensure that humanity doesn't disrupt the balance these species have maintained for millennia? I've already devised preliminary guidelines, I said. No extraction zones, sustainable resource quotas, and strict settlement perimeters to minimize environmental impact. I propose establishing a joint oversight committee, composed of human scientists and representatives of the native species, to monitor our activities. Dr. Zhou exchanged glances with the other council members before nodding. A sound approach, Captain. We'll refine these plans further. But there's one more thing you should know. The room grew quiet as Dr. Zhou delivered her news. The Arkship Unity has completed its final preparations and is en route to OC-112. It carries 10,000 colonists, including scientists, engineers, and families. Its estimated arrival is within 3 Earth months. The words hung in the air, heavy with significance. My chest tightened as the enormity of the situation sank in. Dr. Zhou, I said carefully, that's a monumental step forward, but it's also a risk. This planet is compatible, but it's not ready. We'll need every minute of those 3 months to prepare the infrastructure and to ensure the colonists understand the delicate balance they're entering. We understand your concerns, Captain, she replied. But humanity's need for expansion is urgent. Earth's resources are stretched thin, and the ARC ship's mission is critical. Your leadership on OC-112 will be vital to ensuring a successful settlement. I nodded, the weight of responsibility pressing heavier on my shoulders. I'll make sure we're ready, Dr. Zhou. This planet is humanity's chance to do things right, to build not just a home, but a legacy of coexistence. The Council agreed to send additional supplies and equipment ahead of the ARC ship to aid in preparations. As the transmission ended, I turned to Dax, who had been silently observing the exchange. 3 months, Dax, I said. We have 3 months to lay the groundwork for humanity's future. Understood, Captain, Dax replied. I will optimize our resources and adjust mission protocols accordingly. Shall I prioritize oceanic cooperation or land-based infrastructure? Both, I said firmly. We'll need to show the ocean's sentient species that we're trustworthy, and we'll need to prepare the land for a small, controlled settlement. No room for error. The countdown had begun. Humanity's first step onto OC-112 wasn't just an opportunity, it was a test. And the entire galaxy was watching. The day of the Unity's arrival was one of mingled anticipation and determination. From the Arbiter's quest, I watched as the massive ARC ship pierced the atmosphere, its glowing hull descending like a beacon of hope. Its sheer size dwarfed anything I'd seen in orbit before, a reminder of the thousands of souls it carried and the weight of their expectations. Dax, I said, my eyes fixed on the ship as it settled into a stable hover over OC-112's larger island. Signal the colonists' command center. Let them know we're ready to begin the orientation. Message sent, Captain, Dax replied. Unity Command confirms they are deploying the first shuttle of leaders and specialists for an initial briefing. Minutes later, the shuttle touched down near the Arbiter's quest, and its doors hissed open. A group of figures emerged, clad in the familiar teal uniforms of United Earth's Colonization Corps. Among them were engineers, biologists, and the Unity's lead administrator, Director Arlen Cade. His silver hair gleamed in the sunlight, and his piercing gaze immediately sought me out. Captain Voss, Cade said, extending a hand. It's an honor to finally meet you in person. Your reports have been vital to our mission. I shook his hand firmly. Director Cade, welcome to OC-112. This planet is unlike anything we've encountered before. Let me show you what we're working with. I led the group to the Arbiter's Quest's command deck, where Dax had prepared a comprehensive holographic display of the planet. The projection sprang to life, depicting the ocean, islands, and key findings we'd cataloged. This is the larger island where we've landed, I began, pointing to the dense green overlay of forests and plains. It's fertile and teeming with life, including the horse-like grazers we've named iridescent equins. The land can support limited agriculture, but the biodiversity must be carefully preserved. The hologram shifted, showing the ocean in stunning detail. The ocean is the heart of this planet. Its sentient species, bioluminescent leviathans, communicate through light and sound. We've established rudimentary contact, and they've agreed to observe our settlement, provided we uphold their principles of harmony. Cade leaned closer to the projection, his brow furrowed. And what about resources? I highlighted the findings from our inland scans. The smaller island contains rich veins of superconductive minerals and geothermal energy sources. However, we must harvest these with precision. Over-extraction could destabilize the delicate balance of this ecosystem. When I finished, the room was silent for a moment. Then Cade straightened, his expression a mix of resolve and awe. You've done remarkable work, Captain. Humanity owes you a debt of gratitude. Now let's ensure this colony begins on the right foot. The next phase was to construct the first residential and operational complex, designed to float above the ocean's surface. This approach minimized disruption to both land and sea ecosystems, while allowing for sustainable energy use. The site we chose was a calm expanse near the equator, where ocean currents were stable, and the waters teemed with vibrant life. Construction began immediately, with modular components deployed from the Unity. Dax, I said as I directed a team of engineers, let's run structural integrity checks on the platform supports. They'll need to withstand everything from ocean swells to the bioluminescent species movements. Dax's photoreceptor pulsed. Adjustments made, Captain. Reinforcing with clicium-enhanced alloys for flexibility and durability. The floating complex began to take shape over the next few weeks. Massive supports anchored the structure without penetrating the ocean floor, and solar panels lined its surface to harvest energy from the twin suns. The design included living quarters, research labs, and observation decks overlooking the water. One evening, as the complex neared completion, I stood on an elevated walkway with Director Cade, watching the bioluminescent leviathans glide beneath the surface. Their movements were calm, their glowing patterns undisturbed by the new structure. "They've accepted it," Cade said, his voice tinged with relief. "Your approach to collaboration with this world species is working." "It's a start," I replied, feeling a cautious optimism. "But the real test will come once the colonists settle in. We need to maintain transparency with the leviathans and continue showing them we're here to coexist, not dominate." As the first colonists arrived at the complex, their awe mirrored my own when I first landed on OC-112. They stood at the observation decks, watching the shimmering ocean and its alien inhabitants, their faces alight with hope and curiosity. That night, under the glow of the twin moons, I addressed the new settlers. "This is more than just a colony," I told them. "It's a chance to prove that humanity can learn from its mistakes, to live not as conquerors, but as stewards. Together we'll build a home that honors both the beauty of this planet and the trust of those who already call it home." The colonists erupted into applause, their determination shining as brightly as the ocean below. The first step had been taken, and as I gazed out at the horizon, I knew the journey was far from over. But for the first time in years I felt a spark of hope, not just for humanity's survival, but for its capacity to grow. The Arbiter's quest stood ready for departure, its sleek hull gleaming in the golden light of OC-112's twin suns. I stood at the observation deck of the floating complex, gazing out at the colony that was beginning to come alive. The rhythmic hum of machinery and the distant laughter of children echoed across the water, blending seamlessly with the natural melodies of the planet. Director Cade approached, his expression a mix of gratitude and resolve. "Captain Voss," he said, "I wish we had more time to show our appreciation. What you've done here will define humanity's future, not just for this planet, but for how we approach the stars." I turned to him, offering a small smile. "Director, the credit belongs to everyone here. They're the ones who will carry this vision forward. My role was to open the door." He nodded, understanding. "Still, you've left an indelible mark. The colony is in good hands thanks to you." A soft hum signaled Dax 47's arrival. "Captain," he said, "the Arbiter's quest is fully prepped. All systems are optimal. The next star system awaits." I lingered for a moment longer, watching as a pod of bioluminescent leviathans passed beneath the complex. Their glowing patterns felt like a farewell, a silent acknowledgement of the bond we had forged. Turning to Cade, I extended a hand. "Take care of this place. Treat it with the respect it deserves." "You have my word, Captain," he replied firmly. The Arbiter's quest lifted gently from the platform, ascending through OC-112's atmosphere. I watched the floating complex shrink below, its graceful curves blending into the endless blue of the ocean. The colonists stood at the observation deck, waving as the ship climbed higher, their faith and hope a visible reminder of the stakes we carried into the stars. As we reached orbit, the planet's vast beauty stretched out before me, a jewel of blue and green against the infinite black. It was a sight I would carry with me, etched into my memory alongside the lessons I had learned here. "Dax," I said, settling into the command chair, "set a course for the Hydra Luminous system. Let's see what's waiting for us out there." "Course plotted, Captain," Dax replied. "Estimated arrival 3 months. Shall I prepare preliminary star charts and scan protocols?" "Yes," I said, a flicker of excitement igniting in my chest. "And add a note to Earth's archives. OC-112 is a testament to what humanity can achieve when we embrace coexistence." The ship's engines roared to life, propelling us into the vast expanse of the unknown. I leaned back, the stars streaking past the viewport, each one a promise of new stories and challenges. The Arbiter's quest was more than a vessel. It was a bridge between worlds, a symbol of exploration and understanding. And as I embarked on the next leg of my journey, I felt a deep sense of purpose. This galaxy was vast and mysterious, its secrets waiting to be uncovered. I would continue to explore, to learn, and to forge connections among the stars. The adventure was far from over. It was only just beginning.